7:44. Welcome back to BT. Tuesday morning, the day after another executive order issued by President Donald Trump. A new travel ban in place. So Andy Hira from the SFU Poli-Sci Department is back. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We definitely wanted your analysis because it was so relevant last time. This new travel ban just issued. How is this different from the one we initially saw?
Well, a lot of the most egregious clauses have been taken out. So, for example, one of the objections was about immigrants coming from Iraq. That's been taken off the table. We obviously have U.S. soldiers in Iraq, so that was a clear source of objection. Green card holders, passport holders, dual citizens, they're all allowed in. It's a temporary 120-day ban to check out vetting procedures in 6 countries. And so I think a lot of the major objections and the protests you saw around the airports will really dissipate. But in the end, it'll be up to the courts to decide whether it's constitutional.
And a great deal changed given the significant impact for those coming from Syria in the initial order. How does this change with the new travel ban in place?
The Syrians have a 120-day temporary ban, but in the long run, the refugees will still be allowed to come once they pass through all the vetting procedures. There are also important exceptions for family members, for those with injuries, for infants, and a number of humanitarian-type exceptions. So they've taken a lot of the most objectionable parts of the first ban off.
Do you think they will effectively be able to deflect politically and legally given the resistance the administration faced the first time around?
I think they will, and you see that in today's news stories that the Republican Congress is willing to back this administration on this ban, whereas before they were far more reticent.
Well, it was much more discreet the way this travel ban came in place, and you mentioned Congress. There was an impactful speech last week on the part of the president. How was that address received, and what do you think the ultimate impact of that will be?
It's incredible volatility. I don't think anyone's ever seen this in the modern age, or maybe not even in history, where the news cycle changes from one day to the next with this administration, and it shows that their communication strategy is not really well organized. The speech was so well received last week. He was appearing presidential, and then over the weekend he sent out a tweet about Obama wiretapping him, which the Justice Department has denied and the FBI has denied. So it's very hard to keep up with this administration, and they can't seem to stay on message.
Well, the significant implication when I hear about the wiretapping is the potential for conflict of interest. So whatever they find in this case, if there was no wiretapping, what's the implication there? Or if they find that something did take place and they discover something, what could potentially happen on the other side?
Well, I think there are 2 issues there. The first issue is, were Trump's aides' communications monitored, and they were, because there was consideration of collusion between Russian agents and parts of the Trump campaign. But that was separate from the issue he brought up, which was that Obama personally ordered this, and he would need to go through a FISA court, so it wouldn't be like he could do this serendipitously as Trump suggested. So the accusation that a president personally had something out for Trump is really off base, and that's why they haven't talked about it.
Who can truly expose the potential for conflict of interest, especially on the business side with President Trump? We saw protests last week. Trump Tower opens up in our city. We see properties all around the world. This conflict of interest needs to be exposed, and it shows, obviously, the importance of investigative journalism. But who ultimately has that power to take the president to task?
It's really only journalists that can do this, and perhaps hackers such as Anonymous, because he doesn't release his taxes. And in fact, I'm organizing a workshop in April about the Panama Papers, which revealed that there's this whole world of offshore finance where wealthy people from around the world, including Canada, hide their money to avoid taxes. And Trump is probably one of those. You remember during the previous presidential campaign, it was revealed that Romney, the Republican presidential candidate, had offshore money. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case for Trump as well, which is why he doesn't want to release his taxes.
And with this, I think you speak to an important underlying tone here of the struggle for inequality that exists in America. How is this going to get better, or is that gap going to continue to increase?
It's a struggle around the world, and that's why you see so much anti-immigrant sentiment not only in the U.S. but also in Europe. And it's because so many middle-class jobs have disappeared because of automation, because of globalization, and ironically, that's the core of Trump's support. It's not necessarily based on racism, it's based on the loss of blue-collar jobs.
Well, this is only a piece of the analysis. Love having you on and getting your insights. Thanks so much, Andy.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
This conversation, no doubt, will continue. Listen, we'll take a quick break.